Before we start, make sure you've printed out the culture worksheet that goes with this video or have it open as a document in a different window. As to get the most of this, you should answer the questions on there as we go along. As community college managers, we talk a lot about organizational culture, what it is, how we define it, and how we measure it. The culture isn't just a mission statement on a wall. It is what we do every day. It is lived and it is set by the behaviors, habits, and expectations of the leader. Take a moment to think about the culture at your college. How would you describe it to a trusted friend or a mentor outside the college? Is it student centered? Is it process centered? Is it leadership centered? Is it business process centered? How would we tell? What behaviors show this? What does how you spend your time in the budget of your institution say about your culture? Now, think about your team. What's your team's culture? Think about the positive and the negative because you have both. What values does your team have? And how would you illustrate that through their behaviors? As you think about this, I want to share three very different examples of organization cultures I've been a part of to help you think about your team's culture. First, back to my college days. Many of you know I referenced my supervisor, Pat McBride, in an early video. The culture he built was truly magnetic. It was defined by an unwavering commitment to integrity, high accountability, and the constant pursuit of high achievement. But what made it special? Pat led with a deeply caring and relationship based approach that extended into every part of his life. He lived those principles authentically. This experience taught me the culture is most powerful when its principles are lived authentically by the leader. You can't fake it. Example two is the performance culture. Later, I moved on and worked at Gallup. The primary organizational culture there was centered around performance and data. Everything was measured, and half my pay was based on this data. However, within that wider company, my specific interviewing center, staffed mostly by part time college students, developed its own subculture. While results were key, our immediate management team made the atmosphere more fun and informal to engage our staff. This demonstrated that even within a large organization with a strong company culture, the culture of a specific team is immediately influenced by its direct manager and the makeup of its staff. You have the power to shape your team's daily experience. The third example is the high performing, maybe individualistic with flaws culture. I want to take a moment to look at my first director role at Northeastern Junior College. The college had a great student focused culture. And for my team, we intentionally built a high performing, data driven subculture. Our results were great. But here's where I learned a critical lesson. Unknowingly, my example as the leader created a few toxic elements. First, my intense commitment shifted our team into a culture of constant connectivity. My staff felt like they had to be available 7 days a week. Second, I damaged the college wide culture by creating silos. I aggressively championed my own team. Instead of recognizing the strengths of others, I often shared my frustrations about other departments with my own staff. I learned the leader's unconscious habits and neglect of the wider institution can quickly create an unhealthy subculture and a martyr syndrome, even when performance metrics look good. Culture is not just about what you achieve, it's about how you behave and how you treat your peers. Based on those examples, take a few moments and write down some notes. First, think about your college. How would you describe the college culture? What are the positive aspects of the college culture and the negative? In addition, think about your team's culture. How is it like the college's culture? How is it different? What parts of your team culture do you think are positive? What parts of your team culture may not be the best? The foundation of a strong culture is based on clear, shared values. The values only matter when they are lived. The key is for the manager to model the way. First, your team needs to know what your department's values are. As a part of this, look at your college's values. On your website, You probably have an About Us page that lists your mission, visions, and values. Write down the college's values and think about how you see this in the behaviors of the people who work at your institution. Now, look at the list of workplace values and would you add additional values that you'd like your team to include as well as the institutional values? Use this list of workplace values to write down a couple of these values. After identifying these values, you need to determine how you'll behave and the language you will use with your team and others to live these values. Let's go back to the examples from earlier in this lesson and look at the behaviors that help shape these values. The first example was the magnetic culture of new student orientation and Pat McBride. I mentioned the values of accountability, relationships, and high achievement. A few examples of how this played out included the fact that if we weren't 5 minutes early, we were late. This was true for Pat too, who was also early and would actually get into the office a couple hours before the start of our workday to do his office work, to be ready to work with us at the start of the day with orientation. If someone on the team was not performing at the standard expected, we knew Pat would talk to us about our performance and what was expected and would not push these conversations back. In addition, the personal investment he made in us as individuals was huge. He got to know all of us individually, invited us to a cookout with his family, and had social events with us throughout the summer to connect with us and make it a fun experience. At the end of my summer, he wrote the best recommendation letter I have ever received based on his observation and feedback received from surveys. He did this for all the students who worked in orientation. The second example is the performance culture. At Gallup, half my pay was based on the performance of my team every month. In addition, recognition went to the top performers based on the data. I worked with new telephone survey research interviewers, and if they couldn't perform at a certain level in week two, that was the end of their employment at Gallup. Once a week, the manager of our location met for lunch and looked at the performance from every individual on every team from top to bottom. This showed commitment to performance and key performance indicators. The third example was the high performing individualistic culture with some flaws. As I look back at my first director role, I can see how my behavior created negative parts of our culture. I always worked and sent email to my team 7 days a week. Even though I told them I didn't expect a reply until regular work hours, the fact that I was sending them created a feeling they should be always accessing them. When I was frustrated with the performance of a different department, I didn't share this with the supervisor or a mentor. I shared this with my team. This was not good behavior. Even though the use of data and the hard work we did created great results, it didn't feel good, and it felt internally like it was us versus them. This was part of the culture I built through my behavior. As I look back, this college had the strongest student focused faculty culture I've seen in higher education. The institution was committed to faculty advising and provided the training and extra pay for faculty to be on campus certain days in the summer to provide new student advising. The vice president of academics and, in turn, the department chairs had high standards for the work done in the classroom. If you were a new faculty member and just okay in the classroom and on campus, you didn't get renewed at the end of your 2 year probation. I didn't quite understand it all at the time, but now respect the work and standards more than ever that Stanton Garden set as the vice president of academics at NJC. He was also a surprisingly good ping pong player. When you hear about these examples and look at the culture your college has and you want your team to have, it's important for you to think about how you're going to behave and what language you're going to use. Now, I frequently intentionally use the terms control what you can control and assume positive intents as I try to create a culture of cross department teamwork. In addition, I make time to meet with other team leaders to create relationships and show the team the importance of committing time to do this. When there's frustrations with another department, I try to get my staff to think about where they might be coming from. Take a moment to think about your good and bad behaviors and what are the behaviors you want to live to create the culture you want. In addition, today, you also need to communicate and model high basic standards. We talked about this previously, but this is a great time to review on modeling basic standards. Beyond the core values we talked about, you must model basic professional standards. If you allow standards to slip, the culture will follow. First, punctuality. You need to show up on time, not just for work, but for every one on one and team meetings. Second, you need to have a strong work ethic. You need to be visibly engaged and productive during work hours. You don't ask your team to work hard while you spend the day on personal business and long lunches. Third, model respectful interactions. You speak to every colleague and student with respect, even during stressful disagreements. No yelling, no passive aggression. Finally, be prepared. Arrive at team meetings having read the material ready to contribute, showing your team that their time is valuable. In addition, it isn't about your own behavior, but what behavior you allow. Remember, what you allow is what defines your team culture. Accountability is an essential lever of culture. If you consistently allow missed deadlines or disrespectful behavior without addressing it, that becomes the de facto culture of your department. Take a few moments to think about what will be the most difficult for you to hold your team accountable. Culture building is important for a functional workplace, but it also should play a key role in improving student outcomes. To truly understand cultural evolution in the workplace, we can look at the work of David Logan, John King, and Haley Fisher Wright in their book Tribal Leadership. They identify 5 stages of organizational culture, or tribal stages. We're going to focus on how a manager moves a team from level 3 to level 5. From level 3 to level 4, this moves the power of we are great. Most teams operate at level 3, where the model is I and my department is great, and you are not. This was definitely the culture I built as a director of admissions. This culture is about individual or department achievement, silo building, and self promotion. It's effective for individual or team output, but terrible for college collaboration. If you are here, like most teams are, your job is to move your team to level 4. Level 4 is we as a division or institution are great. Here are 2 steps to do this. First, use data to show collective success. Shift the focus from individual victories to a shared team accomplishments. Show data, like an increase in student retention rates or graduation rates that the institution achieved together. Second, identify a worthy rival. A powerful temporary cultural tool is identifying a worthy rival. This is a shared challenge or a competitor, another college, a statewide metric, or an external challenge the team must unite to overcome. This external focus stops the internal rivalry of level 3 and creates a powerful us versus the problem mentality. In the past, I've used the iPad retention completion data of our peer group to identify who our worthy rivals were. From level 4 to level 5 is the mission jump. Level 4 is a high performing, competitive, and cohesive team. And if you get there, congratulations. They think their college is the best, and they generally are one of the best. But the ultimate goal is level 5. The life is great or mission is great organization. This is the hardest leap because it asks people to work for something bigger than themselves or even their team. This is the mission driven organization. In level 5, the team's work is driven by a desire to fulfill a noble purpose. For a community college, this means every staff member is deeply connected to the core mission, transforming the lives of students in the local communities we serve. There's a couple things you can do to move your team here. First, connect the dots. Don't just discuss processes, tell mission stories. Share an anecdote about a student who succeeded because of your team's advising, or how the new registration process that your team developed allowed a working parent to enroll without taking time off. Currently, we use recordings of graduation speeches and other student examples in some of our division-wide meetings to allow all employees see how the work we're doing is transforming lives. Another strategy to use is focus on purpose over process. When making a decision, always frame the choices in the context of the mission. Which option better serves our commitment to accessibility and student equity? It can make the work more difficult and requires individual sacrifice. If your team and institution sees the difference being made, you have plenty of people at your college who are ready to rise to this challenge. From my experience, I've found it is difficult to move from a level 3 to a level 5. Mission stories can reinforce the feeling that one department is great, and making it happen. It may not help the entire organization move forward towards mission focus. If you are in level 3, bring people together first before trying to advance to level 5. Culture is simply a result of the behaviors you reward and the behaviors you allow. As a new manager, your culture building checklist should be: first, define your values. Make them simple, clear, and visible. Second, model the way. Live those values and consistently model basic professional standards. Third, hold people accountable. What you allow defines your culture. Consistently address behaviors that conflict with your desired culture. Fourth, drive to mission. Use data and shared challenges to build team cohesion to level 4, then relentlessly connect your team's work to the larger life changing mission of the community college at level 5. I hope you spent some time in reflection during this video. The worksheet after this video helps you outline what are the specific actions you will take and what are the commitments you will hold yourself to start improving the culture of your team. Remember, you are leading people who are doing vital work. By being intentional about your culture, you create an environment where they can do their best work.